Welcome back to another episode of Projecting Grandeur. I'm your host, Ron Dichter. Very excited to be here today. I've got a really exciting guest who's got a deep background as an artist, manager, producer, casting director. He's got fingerprints all over the entertainment industry, from launching careers of emerging talents to exclusive producing of impactful projects. Albert brings a unique mix of what I would say hustle, heart, and just good old Hollywood know-how. So get ready for an insider's take on what it really takes to believe in and become great. So please welcome Albert Bramante. And Albert, please correct me if I'm not saying that right, but welcome to the show.
And thank you, Ron, for having me. That is correct. It's a great pronunciation. So
Awesome.
I'm really happy to be here. So
Well, well, great. Well, let's just jump right into it. So you've worn many hats, right? Producer, manager, casting director. Like, what do you consider your core identity in the entertainment industry today to be?
um, I really, say I'm more of a content creator. I do represent actors, and I'm hoping to really just produce a lot of content in the space of helping them with their mindset, because that's what I feel has been missing. A lot of pieces, my years of representing actors. There's a lot of pieces that are missing.
Yeah. Well, so Bramante Artists has grown into a pretty well-known, talent management company. I mean, I guess what sparked the idea? And talk to me about like how your vision has evolved since you've started.
Well, I started 20 years ago. My first company was Emerging Talent, and then I had partnered up with another commercial agent back in 2020, and the next agency was Bonafide Emerging Artists, which then during the writer's strike and Screen Actors Guild strike of 23, I had decided that it was just time to rebrand. And a lot of agencies go with their name, as they're attached, and a lot of companies go by their name. So I figured I would just use my namesake and create Bramante Artists, which and I felt it was time for a brand change and time for a name change, because when I first started, I made it my mission to do fresh faces, which I still do, but a lot of the clients I was working with are not really emerging. They've been in the business for a long time. So I was like, okay, this worked at that time. Let me try something different. And so that's where I decided, I'm going to rebrand as Bramante Artists. And yeah, it really works out well in a sense.
Well, I think Bramante has kind of a nice ring to it. It could you could argue maybe you fabricated it. It sounds so good. Like I like it. So using your
Well,
namesake was the win there.
I mean, I do have a nice last name. I will say that. So,
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, listen, you've worked both with emerging actors, seasoned professionals.
hmm
How do you help them not just succeed, but really like project grandeur? As they step into different roles in their career, and you want to get the highest impact. Like, how do you help them do that?
the real secret to helping them is really helping them realize their greatness, and and to realize how much power they have over their life and over their career. Yes, we're in an industry that's overly saturated. The competition is, intense, because there's hundreds of thousands of actors, only a small number of roles. And that's the reality of the business. And most actors are not going to be working full time. I think the estimate, according to SAG-AFTRA, was only 2 or 3% of actors out of 100% only make a living enough to sustain acting full time. Other time, they need other sources of income. It's definitely a really competitive industry, and they can wear the actor down over time. And as you said, prior to recording this, there's a high turnover rate in acting, and a lot of actors leave the business because it may not be sustainable anymore, because they may have families to take care of, other obligations, whether to help their parents or they just can't really economically live in New York. Because to live in New York is very expensive in itself. Even to live out in LA is not cheap. So it can definitely add up over time, the amount of expenses.
Yeah, yeah. You and I were talking about that before the show, where it's tough. Not many people have that staying power. And it's been really impressive just to kind of read your
Hmm.
background and understand your journey. But you're right, it's tough. Just so our audience can
Uh-huh.
get a paint a picture here, what would you say is a recent project that you've either produced or cast that you feel best represents your values or your aesthetic?
Yeah, well, I don't necessarily. I've done casting in the past, but I work now more on pitching actors to projects. But I really enjoy projects that have a good story to tell and that have a great artistic value to them and write some writing that will really move the audience and really get the audience to think and to really reflect. I've always been drawn to, even as a viewer, a content viewer, consumer, more darker storylines or stories that really have a profound meaning to them. And I mean, yes, I do enjoy the simple comedies or the simple blockbusters, but I really love movies that and or just even theater that really makes you think and that really makes moves you to contemplate different parts of life.
For sure. You want to leave the theater questioning your own existence.
That would be, and if you do that, then I know that it was a damn good play.
Yeah. Well, listen, many of your clients, they land, really high visibility roles, both in TV and film. Uh,
Hmm.
what do you look for when choosing people that you do represent? I know that's only a piece of your business, but what do you look for?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, talent is important. Passion is important. Having a good business sense is important. But what's also important is training, meaning that they're well trained, and that they're also one. Another thing I have to consider when I bring people on is, do I have people already of the same category in the roster? So I may not be able to take someone on. They could have all the other characteristics, but if I already have a couple of actors that are already of the same type, it wouldn't be fair to the new actor as well as the current actors that I have on my roster if I had taken that person on. So I have to look for uniqueness. Is there a gap? So usually a lot of times, like I'll see the breakdowns, and the breakdowns are the type of jobs that are posted every day for actors and agents to submit on. And what I often start to look for when I look for talent is what breakdowns or what character descriptions do I not have that I keep running into, like, oh, I have a gap. I can't, I'm not able to pitch an actor for this role because I don't have that type. And so that's what I would then go and actively search for. But at a fundamental level, they need to be talented. They have to have passion. And when I say passion, I mean like, go-getter type attitude and a love for the industry. The one red flag I would say is I shouldn't want success more than you do for you. Because I feel like if I want you to succeed more of an actor than you do, then I have to reevaluate whether this is a good or suitable working relationship or not.
Yeah, that makes tons of sense. You gotta want it. Well, behind the scenes, I don't think everybody who's listening, especially since we talk to a lot of business folks, fully appreciate the business you're in and the complexity and the challenges. But when you look behind the scenes, like what are some of the daily challenges that you navigate that people who aren't in the industry might not even realize are things?
Well, it's insanely competitive, and you're pitching actors along with probably another 100 to 150 other talent representatives for the same role. And it's where only one person can get it. And ultimately, I heard from casting directors that a lot of times when they initially get the pool of actors, who have been pitched for a role, they can win anywhere between 400 to 2,000, and they can only bring, really test or read 15 to 20 most out of that. So you're talking 1.5 to 2% of all those actors that are being pitched. So it's insanely competitive. Number one. And it's not like another profession where it's guaranteed income or I don't make a salary. My clients are not paid on the salary basis. It's gig to gig. And what can make it sometimes challenging is you don't know, well, you don't know when the next one is going to come.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I don't think people really appreciate how competitive that is either. I mean, like you could have the most talented person, but if they don't look good on paper, they're not even getting in the room to get a chance to read.
Yeah, or if they don't have the experience, if they don't, or and even looking good on paper is great, but you also have to be able to deliver because some actors are very good performers, but not so good with under the gun of auditioning.
Right.
And so they may choke on auditions, they may freeze, and what can happen that can prevent them from booking work.
Yeah, yeah, that does make sense. Well, how do you balance the business side of entertainment with your passion for creative storytelling? Like, it seems like you're on both sides of it. Like, how do you balance that?
Well, I've always I think just watching stuff being made, it fuels my creativity, and watching movies being developed and TV shows being developed is an amazing way, like a good outlet for my creativity, and just seeing different content is a good catalyst for creativity too, and I've always had a creative mind to some level, and even sometimes submitting actors for roles requires a little bit of creativity because it's like trying to put pieces of a puzzle together. So that I would say the biggest way is trying to find out which actors can really do well to a brief character description and scan paper and really make it work. That can
Yeah,
take some creativity.
yeah, that makes a ton of sense. It is. It's like a puzzle because you may have the perfect person, but they have the person on the other side that's not a good fit with them. So they're it's crazy. The whole I don't think people fully
Yeah, it
understand the
can
game.
be absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you built a really impressive network. When I was doing some research before the show, I was kind of blown away with the network that you had. Like, what's your philosophy on maintaining strong industry relationships? Which I think is, by the way, so applicable to anybody watching the show, whether you're in business or film or entertainment. Like, just that
Yeah.
strategy.
Well, I would say the biggest thing is treat every relationship as important. And also try to get to know the person behind the position rather than approaching everything as transactional. So I would say, like, if you're an actor or if you're, a bit job seeker, meeting potential employers, try to get to know the other people as just general people first. Because a lot of times people are, two turns. Okay, what can you do for me? Here's my resume. And
Yeah.
sometimes even with me, when I'll meet actors, they'll be like, "Oh, here, 2 minutes here. Can you represent me?" I'm like, "But you don't know me. I don't know you. How do you know that I'm gonna be a good fit for you? And how do you know you're gonna be? I don't know if you're gonna be a good fit for me." That's just like, and I kind, it's a little absurd, but you can almost compare it to dating. Would you see someone you like and say, "Hey, let's get married"? Right away? No. Or let's go steady? No, it's like, okay, let's meet, let's go. So I would say it's all about kind of like courting and being, working at everything from a strategic point of view of relationship building. So a lot of times, whether you're going to networking events or going to other types of events, I would really become genuinely interested in what the other person has to say. So you could talk about the event, you could talk about what projects they're working on, get them to talk about them because people love to talk about themselves. So if you really want to get rapport with people, get them to talk about themselves and show genuine interest. Because
Yeah.
usually then the conversation is going to turn and they're going to turn and they say, "So what do you do?" Bingo, doors open now.
Right.
And so now you could say, "Well, I'm an actor or I'm a, job seeker. I'm looking for a job or I'm a coach or whatever it is you do." You're then setting that seed. So show genuine interest and look at people as relate from a relation standpoint rather than a transactional. What can you do for me? Yes, everybody's going to want to be ultimately help themselves, but at the end of the day, don't make that too obvious that that's what you're doing.
Yeah, no, that's really good advice. And again, I think that's so broadly applicable, outside of the entertainment space as well. Well, let's shift gears a little bit to talk about mentorship. I know that that's a big part of something that you believe in, but like, what role does mentorship play in your work, both from the client side of things, but also just coming up in the industry?
Well, from a client side of thing, I think it's great to have that support and accountability. And I believe mentors are important regardless of what level you're at in your career. It's a good way to kind of help, make eliminate some of the mistakes you make, as well as sometimes learn the best practices or maybe the loopholes or back end the ways of getting through things. And working with someone who's already done, kind of walk the walk, knows exactly how to do that. Now, what's important if for a good mentor-mentee relationship, the mentee has to be coachable. And a lot of times what I find is a lot of people are not entirely coachable. They may say they are, but they're not. And they may not listen to the advice that they're going to give. Now, a mentor can only give you so much information and can only provide so much feedback. It's important for you to be able to implement. So implementation is important. So if you are going to get a mentor, you should follow what they say.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And again, there's a lot of really great people out there in the world that want to give advice, but you're right, you got to be receptive to that advice and be willing to listen to it. So don't seek
Yeah,
it if you don't want to hear it.
of course, you definitely do not want to see, if you don't want to see it, don't get a mentor. And also, keep in mind what a good mentor or a good coach is, they may also sometimes tell you things you may not necessarily want to hear.
Right.
Construct, important feedback. So just be open to that and take it as a learning experience. That your mentors are there to help you. And even on my end, it's always good to sometimes connect with other senior talent agents and managers who've been doing it for so many years, even much more than I have been, so that again, there may be something I'm not thinking of in doing or implementing. So I always come to the mentality you should always be learning, no matter how old you are, no matter how many degrees you have, how much training or experience you have. It's always important to have that mindset of always learning, because that's what
100%.
that also keeps us humble and shows me humility.
Yeah, yeah, you're never done learning. I agree. Well, looking ahead, like thinking about what you want to do, what are you most excited to either create or champion or disrupt in the next phase of your career, and how does that vision align with your own definition of, going back to the show, projecting grandeur?
Yeah, well, the important thing is to always work to improve. I always believe that we're a work in progress. So, like every year, I want to get better and better, and what that looks like is gonna be no story. I want to, like again, I'm going on podcasts. I'm going on, because I want to help, spread my message around the world. So, my hope is that I can help other people and inspire other people, not just the small community I work with. So the important thing is to always strive to be better than where you are each year. You should only, I'm a big believer that we shouldn't be in competition with each other. However, it's okay to be competition with ourselves so that we can get better each time. And that's what I think projecting grandeur is all about, is just growing and improving over
Yeah,
time.
yeah, spot on, my friend. Absolutely, it's about you're competing against yourself, becoming the best version of yourself, and you're the only one that defines that. So, listen,
Absolutely.
yeah, listen, Albert Bramante, you remind us that behind every breakthrough, there is behind the scenes people that are going to work, going to battle for their, their person, and it's an inspiration. And I'm going to make sure that I share all of your links, all of your websites out. But just so that the audience out here knows how to get a hold of you, is there one place you want to steer them so that they know how to find you online?
I would say LinkedIn, Albert Bramante. Feel free to send me a connection request, follow me, and I'll follow back, and I'll interact with you there.
Awesome. Well, Albert, you've been an amazing guest. Thank you so much for joining the show. It's
Thank
been
you,
an honor
Ron,
having you.
and thank you for
And,
inviting
and
me.
you bet. And until next time on Projecting Grandeur, keep showing up, keep thinking big, projecting your own version of greatness. And really excited that y'all joined us. Take care.
All right.